Hello, people. Trust you're well and you're good, right? Okay. My name is Oji of Made for More, and today's episode or today's topic, I want us to look at childhood trauma. Very interesting, right? Childhood trauma has been doing a whole lot in people's lives and relationship. Childhood trauma has been noted to wreck homes and valuable relationships, all kinds of relationship, both work relationship, marital relationship, and different kinds of relationship actually. So childhood trauma is something you should look for, you should look out for and deal with it because it can destroy any valuable relationship. It can destroy even the person. And come to think of it, the reason why people behave the way they do sometimes is not because they are bad people. The reason why people behave the way they do sometimes is not because they are bad people. Sometimes it is because of what they've been through, what they've passed through. And what is childhood trauma? Childhood trauma is any kind of distressing or uncomfortable or unpleasant experience one has had. Any distressing, uncomfortable experience one has had when she was a child or when he was a child. That's called childhood trauma. Trauma is an uncomfortable thing, is a distressing thing, is a painful thing. And most times it comes and leaves a person with different kinds of awkward and awkward characters that's the reason the formative stage of a child, of every child, is very critical, it's very important and paramount, right? I just want all of us to get in here. Let's talk about childhood trauma. So I'm going to have episode 1 and episode 2 because I want to what I want to do is to tell real life stories of what those things can do so you can look out for it and watch your life, see if any of them is affecting you. Better still, you go for deliverance, seek for help, and do one or two things to sort it before it destroys you or your relationship. But it will not destroy you, not you that is listening to me. It won't destroy you, in the name of Jesus. So today, I just want to talk about childhood trauma in a male child and what it can do.
So, yeah, the childhood trauma I want to discuss today is a childhood trauma with in a male child. Listen, there are different kinds of trauma you can see in a male child, and you can also see most of it or some of it um, in a female child. But today we want to talk about childhood trauma in a male child. So now there are different kinds of trauma. A male child, a boy, yeah, a boy child goes through. One of them is emotional trauma, emotional, which has to do with emotional neglect and this kind of charge, emotional trauma, this kind of charge that a boy child don't cry. It's been said that a boy child should not cry. But listen, don't tell a child not to cry. Don't tell a child not to cry. And especially a male child, because that's what we're discussing. This is one of the things, the lies parents has believed and people has believed. You say you're a boy, come on, don't cry. That's bad. Allow a child to be a child. Don't tell the child, shut up, you're a boy, you should not cry, man up. No, that's pressure. You're putting pressure on the child. And guess what he's going to do on the child, on the boy child? When the child, as he's growing up, the only way he will understand to sort issues will be violence. He will never have empathy, compassion, because he has been told you don't need to show concern about people's emotion. You don't need to cry. You don't need to show that you are angry. No, allow children to be children, especially for the male child. Allow a child to cry. I was listening to I was watching a video of this guy Peterson, the gospel artist, gospel music artist Peterson. When he wedded, the his best friend, who is his best man, began to cry, began to tear when, he was exchanging vows, and possibly because of what they've been through, possibly because of how, how far God has brought them, and maybe they never knew that God is going to bless them this way. And so when Peterson was exchanging vows, this guy began to cry. He began to tear, emotion. Began to show emotions, began to show concern. That's what people say saying Nigerians. I, it got me so angry. That I'm like, come on, guys, come on, guys. Who said who said a male child shouldn't cry? Now, because the guy began to cry and people start saying, oh, they are homosexual. Oh, maybe they have been in relationship. Oh, maybe they've been deceiving us. How can a guy cry? Come on, man. Why are you crying? There are more to it. You have to tell us why you're crying. Because your guy is getting married. Please, who told you? Who told us? Who sold that lie to us that a boy child shouldn't cry? Men, I just want to address something today. Men have emotions. And when they don't express it, they bottle it up. And when they want to express it, they express it in fights. So these boys grew up not knowing how to sort problems, not knowing how to express their emotions, not knowing how to show compassion, not knowing how to treat people. They always believe everything is fight and violence. No. So for every male child you see that always quarrel, that always fight, and all that violence all the time, the male child has a problem, and that is from his childhood because he has been told, no, you shouldn't cry, you should bottle it up. That's why when you come for where they are doing ceremony, different kinds of ceremony, especially burial ceremony, you find out that men are not crying. You will see your wife going through pains, and you are not crying. You are not. I don't mean you should shed tears, but even if you want to shed tears, shed tears. Shed tears, depending on what the thing is. Show compassion, show empathy, show remorse. Okay? When those things are one of the things that break homes. A man shouldn't beg, a man shouldn't say sorry. Who told you that? Who deceived us? Who told you a man shouldn't say sorry? So number two, very quickly, is sexual abuse. Do you know, my friends, that most guys has been violated as they are growing up? Most guys has been violated, abused, raped, but they can't talk about it because they were told that they shouldn't talk. They should learn to be a man and bottle up their emotions. Guess what this does to a male child when he grows up? Lack of trust, lack of empathy. He will not be able to trust his spouse. He will keep thinking the spouse is doing one thing or the other. He will keep thinking negative word and all that. That is because of what he has been through. Abuse. He has been raped. He has been raped. Something had happened to him. If you see most guys that have trust issues, trace it properly, you will see that most of it is as a result of how they grew up, the abuse, the sexual abuse that had happened to them when they were a child, when they were children. But because they could not talk about it, it grew, those things matured, grew, and grew with them, and they became a man, got married, and is affecting them. Do you understand that? So another type of, so if you have trust issues, please, I'm going to give remedies to these things. If you have trust issue, please accept it, sit down, accept it, and there are ways to combat it. You can go for therapy, you can look for meaningful relationships, strategic relationship, and stay in an environment where you feel safe. Talk to people that you feel safe with. And then if possible, you can go for deliverance. You can go for see a therapist. Go for deliverance. Stay in a safe environment. Stay in a safe relationship. People that will not take you for granted. Do you understand that? That's one of the ways. These are ways to combat those things. So because of our time, because I don't want to waste so much time in this video, because of our time, the next trauma that affects children so much, especially boy child so much, is separation, divorce, abuse, hitting a husband and wife's quarrel. Maybe you see a child, a male child, that that always want to fight, always fighting, quarreling, quarreling with his wife and doing stuff like that, quarreling with people, not at peace with anyone, having issues in his relationship, both marital relationship, both all round relationship. Check that child properly. Violence and all that. It might be as a result of the type of relationship he has seen the mom and the dad have in the past. That's why we encourage parents never ever quarrel in the presence of your children. If you guys have problem, take your children somewhere, sort it out, and do not allow your anger to last more than 24 hours. Sort it. That's what the Bible says. Be angry, but sin not. Be angry, but sin not. Be angry, but sin not. So don't let your anger last for more than 24 hours. If you have a problem as a parent, as spouse, sort it, and it must not be in the presence of your children. That is why some of these guys, they believe the best way to sort issues in marriage is fight, violence, abuse, verbal abuse. You open your mouth. When you see a man that opens his mouth anyhow and talk to his wife, that man is a victim of childhood trauma, which is influenced by divorce, separation, and maybe physical abuse. Maybe he saw his friends fighting, like physical fights, fighting, not just fighting with words, but so yeah, these things affect children. They affect children. That's why when these children, they will soon become a man, they will soon become adults, and they will get married, they end up in relationships and all that. And you see their relationship begin to have issues. They begin to fight in that issue because of those things in their mind. And I've given the ways to combat these things. If you are this person, you notice you always want to fight. You don't know how to sit down and talk. Hello, men do talk. Men, real men talk. If there are issues in your relationship, sit down quietly and talk. Everything must not end in fight. Everything, sit down and have a dialogue. You guys are adults. So childhood trauma are real. You see, anger, rage. This as a result of homes, these things are wrecking homes. You see your parents talk back at each other, fight each other and all that. When they grow up, they would think that that's the normal way of life. Do you understand that? So let's help ourselves. Let's be very intentional about our lives. Let's be very intentional about our men, our children. Do you get that? So the last one I'm going to talk about is physical abuse. This physical abuse entails beating a male child. You begin to beat and bully your male child. That's too bad. And because you give them marks because they are not female children. Some people will say because for female children, no, I will not beat them so much because of their body. Their body needs to be smooth and neat and all that. But for male children, you hit and beat the hell out of that child. That's too wrong, because one of the things it's going to do to that child is that child begin to malfunction. That child, as he grows up, he'll begin to be a fighter, violence. He'll fight and quarrel the hell out of people. Now, another aspect of physical abuse is lack. When you don't provide for your male child, you think, let me not provide for my male child. He can manage, but you provide for your female children, right? That's too wrong. That thing you're doing is leaving that guy with a mindset that women should, give them a different kind of mindset for women. Some of them, it makes them hate women. It makes them hate females. Do you understand that? So provide equally for your children. You have a male child, he has a need. Provide, you can't say, oh, male children are not expensive, female children are more expensive. I agree in quotes, right? But make sure your male child have his needs. Yeah, provide equally for all of them. Because if you do that, it will not leave any trauma. It will not leave any kind of violence or attitude, or it will not leave any kind of wrong mindset about women for him. He make him start thinking women are costly, why men are cheap. Stuff like that. So those things are the things every parent should look into. Let's ensure that we help our children. The last one I'm going to point is loss of a dead one, loss of a parent or someone very close. These things give children trauma. It gives children trauma, especially a male child. Maybe lost his dad or lost his mom. It leaves them with trauma, and it makes them. And one of the things that happens is that number one, for some of these children, when they have this trauma, the effect I'm not going to list the effect of this trauma in a male child, right? Number one is insecurity. Once you see a man that doesn't trust his wife, that doesn't trust anybody, doesn't trust his friends, in fact, if you don't, he will even assume that his friend is sleeping with his wife. Yeah, that's crazy. That's weird. Whenever he sees his wife, he begins to say, has she gone anywhere? He doesn't want control freak. These are the things childhood trauma causes. Maybe that child was raped, maybe that child was abused, physically, verbally, or otherwise. So, number two, when you see these things, how this thing affect your child, it's one of the ways these things affect a child is that some of them sickness. It can make a child sick, constantly sick. You see this child having headache, and all that. When you notice headache, when you notice bitterness, unforgiveness, anger, that's childhood trauma. Those things are from the things he has passed through, when he was a child, or the things he saw with his eyes happening in the life of his parents, or in the lives of those that are very close to him when he was young. So these things are how, and many more are how those things affect male children. And lastly, I've told us to combat these things. In my next video, I'm going to give us in the next episode, which is episode 2, I'm going to talk extensively on how on childhood trauma in I'm going to talk extensively on childhood trauma in female children, in a girl child, and how it affects her relationship. So when I'm going to talk about that, I'm going to give you life examples, life stories, life scenarios. I'm going to tell you a gist about mine. Yeah, because I used to be this person that is very, when I get angry, I break heads. When I get angry, I break heads. I do terrible things when I'm angry. So, but one of the things that helped me, like I said, how to combat it, number one, you have to identify that you have those things. You have to say yes when you have them. I mean, you have to check, ask people questions. Everybody have childhood trauma. Everybody have these traits, right? You have to check the one that is in your life. When you check it, and when people tell you, accept it, admit it, and that is first step to change. When you now accept it, when you now admit that you have the issue, number two, you're going to do for yourself is to get a therapist. If it's that, get a therapist, trauma therapy, somebody that is going to take you on one-on-one guidance or training to help you overcome that. You can combat it for that. I'm going to give you life examples, life stories, life scenarios. I'm going to tell you a gist about mine. Yeah, because I used to be this person that is very, when I get angry, I break heads. When I get angry, I break heads. I do terrible things when I'm angry. So, but one of the things that helped me, like I said, how to combat it, number one, you have to identify that you have those things. You have to say yes when you have them. I mean, you have to check, ask people questions. Everybody have childhood trauma. Everybody have these traits, right? You have to check the one that is in your life. When you check it and when people tell you, accept it, admit it, and that is first step to change. When you now accept it, when you now admit that you have the issue, number two, you're going to do for yourself is to get a therapist. If it's that, get a therapist, trauma therapy, someone that is going to take you on one-on-one guidance or training to help you overcome that. You can combat it and you can overcome it. And after that, you become a very beautiful soul. That's my prayer for you. Do you get? That's my prayer for you. Become a very beautiful, a very sweet soul. So number three is to seek number three, to combat these things I'm talking about, is to go for deliverance if it's now very toxic and all that. Go for deliverance. Like the church I worship with, Dominion City. Oh, praise God. Thank God for Dominion City. We have this program we call Encounter Retreat. If you're in UK, if you're in Nigeria, if you're in America, if you're anywhere you are in the world, and you want to go for Encounter Retreat, that's the program Dominion City holds, and it's called Encounter Retreat. One of the things I passed through as a child that affects me is unforgiveness. I don't forgive, I don't forget. So, but one of the days, my pastor told me about Encounter Retreat, and he asked me to go there. On that very day, I had to forgive my dad. This story is going to be for the next episode. So if you want to hear the G's and how I get transformed, wait for my episode 2 on childhood trauma. I'm going to end it here. I'll see you again in my next video. Cheers. Bye. See you.